Real estate is a business built on trust, on selling dreams and opening doors. But on a cold winter night in 2008, one open door in Saanich, British Columbia, led directly to an act of incomprehensible violence and an enduring, unsolved mystery. This is the story of Lindsay Elizabeth Buziak, a young, ambitious real estate agent whose life was violently extinguished in the midst of a professional showing. February 2, 2008, a date that marks the day Lindsay was lured by what appeared to be perfect clients, a well-heeled couple looking for $1 million home. They were the dream transaction, the big commission, but they were in fact assassins. The crime scene itself was baffling. No forced entry, no robbery, no immediate motive. It was a targeted, clinical execution, orchestrated with chilling precision against an ordinary, unsuspecting woman. 15 years later, the question remains, who lured Lindsay Buziak to her death? And why has the killer, or killers, vanished without a trace into the shadows of Vancouver Island? As always, my name is Cody. I run this channel with my partner, Katie. Welcome or welcome back to What's the Story? A reminder, if you do find today's video interesting and informative, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories told by yours truly. Now grab a snack and a blanket and let's dive in. Lindsay Buziak was born in 1983. At 24 years old, she was the picture of youthful ambition and success. She was well known in the Victoria area, a driven real estate professional working for a high-profile brokerage. She was vibrant, intelligent, and popular. Her career trajectory was steep, promising wealth and stability. But her life was also at a critical juncture. She was planning for the future, both professionally and personally. Lindsay was preparing to move in with her boyfriend, Jason Zylo, a successful local real estate agent and the son of a prominent figure in the Victoria business community. Their relationship was relatively new, but serious. They had plans, dreams, and the kind of stability that comes with building a shared life. Crucially, Lindsay was also dealing with complex dynamics within her family and some growing tension in her relationship with Jason. There were whispers, concerns, and the typical strains of young adults merging their lives and their careers. She was an open book professionally. She operated with integrity and trusted her clients implicitly. This trust was exploited with brutal efficiency. The fact that she was showing a house on a Saturday night demonstrated her dedication, her willingness to go the extra mile for a big commission. She was on the cusp of everything she had worked for, unaware that the pursuit of that dream was leading her directly into a fatal trap. The plan to murder Lindsay Buziak began with a phone call that appeared innocuous but was meticulously calculated. In the days leading up to the murder, Lindsay received a call from a woman who identified herself only as Shirley. Shirley claimed she was calling from a Calgary phone number and was representing a wealthy client, a man named Mr. Wilson, who was moving to Victoria and needed $1 million home immediately. The requirements were vague, but the budget was high, making it an irresistible lead for any agent. The details of this initial contact are crucial. The caller insisted on a quick viewing, specifically on that Saturday evening, February 2nd. They claimed they had a limited window to view the property as they were arriving from out of town. Most disturbingly, the number Shirley used was a burner phone, a prepaid cell phone, purchased under false pretenses and designed to be disposable. It could not be traced back to an owner or a contract. The suspects also had very little specific knowledge of the Victoria market, despite claiming to be seeking a high-end property. They asked few questions about the house's features, focusing only on setting the viewing time and confirming the address, 1702 De Souza Place, in the quiet, upscale neighborhood of Saanich. This was not a client making a legitimate inquiry. This was a lure executed by professionals who knew exactly how to exploit the trust and ambition of a young real estate agent. Lindsay suspected nothing. She simply saw a prime opportunity and confirmed the appointment. The timeline of Saturday, February 2, 2008 is precise and horrifying. Lindsay confirmed the viewing for 5:30 p.m. Her boyfriend, Jason Zylo, was scheduled to be nearby, meeting a friend for dinner, at a restaurant adjacent to the property, though he would later claim his meeting fell through. Lindsay arrived at the empty house first. The house was vacant, pending sale, the perfect secluded location for the planned crime. At approximately 5:30 p.m., a couple arrived. Witnesses later described them as Caucasian, the man tall with dark hair, the woman shorter, wearing a distinctively colored dress. Lindsay text messaged Jason, confirming the clients had arrived. It was the last communication she would ever send. Jason Zylo and his friend arrived in the area shortly after 5:45 p.m. Jason, knowing Lindsay was working, decided to swing by the house, believing he would see the clients leaving. When they pulled up to 1702 DeSouza Place, Jason saw a strange sight. Only one vehicle was in the driveway, the client's car. The front door of the house was closed. Jason waited for approximately 20 minutes, texting Lindsay repeatedly, without receiving a reply. Growing concerned, Jason and his friend walked up to the house. They peered inside the glass of the front door, but could only see the reflection of themselves and darkness. The door was locked. Jason phoned his brother for assistance, and eventually they gained entry through the garage door, which was found unlocked. What they discovered inside was the scene of the murder. Inside the house, in the master bedroom, Lindsay Buziak's body was found. She had been brutally stabbed multiple times. It was a ferocious and deeply personal attack. Yet, the crime was perplexing. There was no evidence of sexual assault. Nothing had been stolen. Lindsay's purse, wallet, and cell phone were all found at the scene. This was not a robbery gone wrong. This was an execution. Crucially, the police found almost no forensic evidence. The killer or killers were extremely careful. There was no traceable DNA and no usable fingerprints. This strongly suggested a premeditated, professional hit, executed by individuals wearing gloves and taking great care not to leave anything behind. The timeline was incredibly short. Lindsay's last text was around 5:30 p.m. Jason entered the house around 6:05 p.m. The entire attack, from meeting the clients to the fatal stabbing and the suspect's escape, took less than 30 minutes. Witnesses in the neighborhood provided only vague descriptions of the suspects, a couple leaving the house quickly. They were described as being in their 40s. The woman was noted for wearing a distinctive bright pink or purple dress, a bizarre choice for a cold February evening real estate showing. Why would the killers remain on the premises for a few minutes after the murder if they knew Jason Zylo was parked just down the street? This small window of time and the lack of panic displayed by the suspects suggests a terrifying level of control and perhaps an awareness of the time constraints. It also raises immediate suspicion about how the killers knew the house was vacant and how they specifically targeted Lindsay. It was clearly a highly sophisticated, personalized setup. The Saanich Police Department launched a massive investigation, but the case quickly became defined by its frustrating lack of physical evidence. The key piece of evidence was the burner phone used to set up the showing. Detectives traced its purchase back to a retail outlet in Vancouver in the weeks prior to the murder. The phone was registered under a false name and paid for in cash. The phone was activated just before the first contact with Lindsay and was never used again after the murder. Police could only trace the cell phone's location via tower pings, establishing its movement from the Vancouver area to Victoria and then back to the mainland immediately following the murder. But the phone itself was never recovered. The focus of the investigation quickly turned inward, looking at Lindsay's close circle. Jason Zylo, the last person to see her alive and the one who discovered the body, was intensively questioned. His actions, waiting in the car, his delay in entering the house, raised initial suspicions. However, Jason had an ironclad alibi, confirmed by his friend and his own phone records, proving he was in the area but not inside the house during the critical window of the murder. He was ultimately cleared as a suspect. Investigators then focused on the possibility of a drug connection, suggesting Lindsay's father, Jeff Buziak, or another close associate had ties to organized crime or drug trafficking, and that Lindsay was killed as an act of revenge or intimidation. This theory implies Lindsay was an innocent pawn, killed to send a message to a relative or someone she knew. But why such a spectacular, high-risk execution for a message? And why the extreme effort to lure her to a vacant house? The motive remained elusive, and the lack of leads paralyzed the investigation.
Hey there! Before you take off, we'd just like to take a second and say that we really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. Katie and I are so grateful for the incredible Case Files community, so thank you for being a part of it. If you want to help the Case Files continue to grow, one of the easiest things you can do is leave a like on this video and consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell as well and select all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. We want you to know that we truly appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.